Hello everyone, I Assistant Professor Pragati Shetty from Department of Microbiology, KJ Somaya College. In this online lecture, we will study about the influenza virus. We have started the topic of the influenza virus in the last online lecture. Right now we will continue that. In the last online lecture, we saw the structure of the virus. Right? Then we saw two important proteins. We saw each proteins that are present on the virus, that is the antigens of the virus, right, which will responsible for infecting the host cell, right. Then we saw the antigenic viral protein. We saw what is the receptor gradient, what is the hemagglutination titer, right. Then we saw the antigens: surface antigen, V antigen, M antigen, right, and the RNB, that is the ribonucleoprotein antigen, which is the soluble antigen, right. Then we saw the difference between the type A. We saw the three influenza types: type A and the type B and the type C, right. Then in this online lecture we will start with the epidemiology of this virus. What is its epidemiology, right? Now in this picture you can see the origin of pandemics. Okay, we saw in the earlier lecture that this virus is able to cause the epidemic as well as the pandemics, right? So how the pandemic was originated or its origins, right? Now the influenza can transmit to the humans via birds, via swine. Swine mean pigs. Okay, so either the human will come in contact with the infected bird, right, such as the chickens, which human do eat, right. It is a food, it is consumption, food consumption for the human. So if the human will come in contact with the infected bird, the virus will transmit, the viral will transfer to the human. Okay, then secondly, the virus can transmit to the from the pigs. Okay, and the third one, the virus can also transmit via the human to human, which is very rare, but it can transfer, right, the human to human direct contact. Okay, so in this picture you can see there is the symptoms for the swine influenza. Okay, there are the three types: swine influenza, bird influenza and the human influenza. Okay, now in the swine influenza, if the virus is present in the swine, what are the symptoms? The symptoms will be the diarrhea, then the respiratory tract infective symptoms such as the coughing and the sore throat, right, and the the psychological, that is the lethargy and the lack of appetite. All right, then the nasopharynx, sneezing, and the mucus, that is the nose or the eye. Okay, from this the infection can be spread. All right, then systemic symptoms are fever, weight loss and the poor growth. These are the systemic symptoms, okay, for the swine influenza. All right, now in the second picture there is the bird influenza. How the influenza will transfer via the bird. Okay, as we saw in the previous slide, the most people who have been infected with the bird flu have had direct contact with the sick bird. Okay, which means a bird has the previous infection, has already is infected with this virus. Okay, and if people will come in contact with this bird, then they will get that virus. Okay, and the third one is the human to human infection, has been very rare, right? As I mentioned earlier, the human to human contact is very rare, but it can transmit via this route also. Okay, now we will continue to the epidemiology. Now all age groups can be affected. Okay, the influenza virus can affect all age groups. Okay, from child to the elder. All right, but there are three important groups which are at higher risk for this disease, for this virus. All right, now which are they? First one is the pregnant woman, second one is the children which are under 59 month. Okay, then the elderly patients, okay, which means the children, very high low age and very higher age, plus the pregnant woman. Okay, these three are the important groups which are more prone or which are had the higher risk for this virus, okay, getting the virus. Now the illness can range from the mild to the severe and even death. Okay, in the pandemics of the influenza, there are a lot of people the population got affected due to this virus, because a lot of people were dead because of this virus. Okay, then hospitalization and death occur mainly among the high risk groups. Okay, these are the three groups, and in this, as these groups are higher at the higher risk, so they will also at the higher risk for the complications, right? Then the immunocompromised patients or the immunocompromised people are also has the more risk for this virus. Now, such as the individual with the chronic medical condition, such as the chronic cardiac, the pulmonary, then the renal, cardiac, then the metabolic activity, the metabolic deficient, right? The neurodevelopmental, liver or the hematologic diseases. Okay, these are the chronic medical conditions, and if a person is having any one of them, then that person will have the more risk for getting the virus. Okay, now the second one is the immunosuppressive condition, okay, in which the immunity got suppressed. That is why the name says as the immunosuppressive conditions, which are those such as the HIV or AIDS, okay, receiving the chemotherapy or the steroids or the malignancy. Now these are the conditions in which the immunity will suppressed. Okay, and due to that, the person will be at the higher risk or will be prone to this virus. All right, now the type A virus was isolated in the 1933. Okay, major antigenic changes have occurred twice in this virus, once in the 1957, and at that time this virus was named as the H2N2. Okay, then again the second antigenic change in this virus was observed in the 1968, and they named this mutated type of the type A virus as the H3N2. Okay, all right, the original is called as the H1N2. The second mutation will be called as the H2N2, and the third one is calling as the H3N2. All right, now the strains occurring between 1946 and 1957 have been called as the H1N1 viruses. Okay, H1N1 strains of the influenza virus. Now the shift in the 1968 involved only the H antigen. Okay, H antigen, hemagglutination antigen. Okay, in the 1977, a new antigenic type appeared in the China and the USSR, and the virus was identified as the type A, H1N1. Okay, see, these are the different strains of the virus. The virus mutated itself. Okay, it changed the antigenic properties, right? And therefore we can say that this is the come under the category of the antigenic drift. Okay, as I mentioned in the earlier lecture, the antigenic drift in which the mutations will occur. Okay, right, now we will having with us the H2N2, H3N2, H1N1 and the AH1N1. Okay, now within a year after this isolation of the AH1N1 strain, it had been isolated in the countries all over the world, and therefore the pandemic of the influenza was happened. See, we have mentioned here all over the world, and I mentioned earlier the pandemic means what? The disease caused all over the world, in the whole community, okay, in the whole world. That is called as the pandemic. Okay. Now, curiously, this was an earlier virus which has appeared after the lapse of over 20 years. Okay, in the past, the emergence of a new influenza A subtype lead to the prompt disappearance of the previously prevalent subtype. Okay, in the 1977, this did not happen, which means this has already once happened in the 20 years before, but there where the conditions were very different. Okay, then in this the pandemic was happened on a very much higher scale, much larger scale. Okay, in which the population got affected very much. Okay, in this, which strains are discovered? The H2N2 strain, then the H3N2, H1N1 and the AH1N1 strains. Okay, right, then the prevailing H3N2, this is again different strain, right? AH1N1, then the AH3N2. Okay, dual infection with the both viruses were reported. Okay, then as of now, 3 types of influenza viruses, right? As I mentioned, AH1N1 there, then AH3N2 there, and the influenza type B exist. Okay, now the influenza viruses of the H1N1 have caused the subtype of H1N1. Okay, have caused the epidemics of the disease in the 2 period of this century, from about 1946 up until 1957, and from 1977 until the present. Okay, now the H1N1 subtype, that is the AH1N1, caused the epidemics. Okay, epidemics in the 2 period, which were the 1946 and the 1977. Okay, then we will see now this is the epidemiology of this was the epidemiology of the influenza virus, right? That how it got transmitted and what affects or what was its effect on the population. Okay, how greater is the effect or how much population is got affected from this virus, that is coming under the epidemiology. And what are all the strains we discovered, we are also isolated the various strains of the influenza virus, right? That will also come under the epidemiology. Okay, yes, now we will see the pathogenicity plus the pathogenesis. Okay, then in the pathogenicity, what is the pathogenicity? How pathogenic the virus is, right? I mentioned in the earlier lecture also, the pathogenicity means the how much dose is required to cause the infection. The smaller the dose, higher is the pathogenicity. The larger the dose is required, the viral dose is required, the smaller is the pathogenicity. Okay, now in the influenza virus, very small doses are required. Okay, approximately 3 viable particles, which is very minute quantity, which means that the virus is way more pathogenic. Okay, because a very little amount of the virus or the viral dose is required to cause the infection. That is, the approximately only 3 viable particle of the virus is sufficient enough to cause the infection in a person. Alright. Now, can initiate infection when given as the aerosols. Can transmit via the aerosols also, right? Then larger doses are also required when infection is by intranasal instillation. Okay, inside into the body, right? Intranasal instillation, and in that conditions the larger doses are required. All right. Now pathogenesis. This is the pathogenicity. Now pathogenesis, how virus will replicate, or what is the route of the virus to infect at the site of the infection in the host cell or in the patient, right? Now we all know the neuraminidase and the hemagglutinin are the two surface antigens, right? Sorry, the V antigens, the viral antigens. Surface antigens are different. Surface antigen is RNP, that is the ribonucleoprotein. The viral antigen or the V antigens are the hemagglutinin and the neuraminidase. Okay. Now the neuraminidase will initiate. Neuraminidase is responsible for initiating the entry infection, right? By reducing the viscosity of the mucus film lining the respiratory tract are the main site of the infection. This line tells us that the main site of the infection for the virus is the respiratory tract, right? Then the neuraminidase enzyme, what it will do, it will decrease the viscosity of the mucus lining that is present in our respiratory tract, right? Now as the viscosity will decrease, the virus will attach to that surface, okay, and then it will enter into the body of the host. Okay, now this damaged cells of the mucus cells, right, they are laid bare in the bronchi and the archaea, making the respiratory tract very vulnerable for the bacterial invasions, right? So as the viscosity of the mucus lining the respiratory tract will be decreased, right, so the bacteria can also attach to that site, right? So therefore it will also make the site, or it will also make the respiratory tract vulnerable for further bacterial invasions. All right. Now in some cases a hyaline membrane is formed. Now what is this hyaline membrane? Which will formed by occupying the alveolar ducts and the alveoli. Okay, the virus will occupy the alveolar ducts and the alveoli, right, in our lungs, right? Alveoli are present, so alveolar ducts and the alveoli, they will occupy by the virus, and then it will produce the hyaline membrane. Okay, this is the important distinguished characteristic of this virus. Okay, then in later stages, in the furthermore infection stage, the latter stage, there is infiltration with the macrophages, okay, which engulf and remove the disacquated alveolar cells. Now macrophages, as we know, are responsible for defense mechanisms, right? Now if there infiltration between this only, the macrophages, which means macrophages will not able to do their role, do their job. Okay, macrophages, what they do, they will engulf the outsider cells, right? Now due to there is infiltration of the macrophages, it will not remove or engulf the alveolar cells which are occupied by the virus in the previous point, right? Then disease is mostly into the respiratory tract and rarely in the spleen, liver and the kidneys. That means which is the site of the infection for the virus is the respiratory tract. Okay, from the respiratory tract the virus will enter into the host body, and there it will multiply, and then it will goes to the alveoli and the bronchi and the alveolar ducts, right? Then rarely the site of the infection can be the spleen, liver and the kidneys. Okay, now in this lecture we saw the epidemiology of the influenza virus, and then we saw the pathogenicity and the pathogenesis of this influenza virus, right? I hope you understood this online lecture. If you have any doubt regarding this, please ask in the comment section. Thank you for watching.